Have you gotten your real ID card? We're going to talk about that on this segment of the Gig Geezer. If this is your first time checking out the Gig Geezer, if you're a returning visitor of the Gig Geezer, hey, thanks for coming by. And if you would not mind, hit that subscribe button, give my content a thumbs up, share my content among others, and I definitely welcome your comments in the section below. The real ID card, you're probably going to hear more about it over the next several days and possibly over the next week or so as well. The real ID card is something that you should look into getting if you plan on gaining access to federal facilities, military bases, federal buildings, if you're looking to board commercial flights or domestic flights, or if you're looking to possibly get on the gig apps. I say that possibly because I've heard of one app requiring it, but it would not surprise me that all the gig apps require people to have show proof of a real ID card, a state-issued real ID card, in order to prove in part your identity on these gig apps. Now, a little bit of history about the real ID card. This was passed as a part of the Real ID Act of 2005. Obviously, it's taken 20 years for it to be enacted, but this is being enacted in part, and I'm guessing it was passed by Congress, but enacted in part by the Department of Homeland Security and the Transportation Safety Administrations. Now, this was also in response to the September 11, 2001 events that occurred back then. Now, also, the real ID cards, at least in theory or as in practice, are to establish some minimum security standards for state-issue ID cards or identifications. And it also prohibits federal agencies from accepting or admitting people onto those facilities and properties who do not meet those standards. Now, for example, I've talked about having a TWIC card, a Transportation Worker Identification Card. That went through the Department of Homeland Security, if memory serves me correct, in which I submitted proof of citizenship, proof of residency. I had a background check, submitted fingerprints, and also had my fingerprints taken. That's just one form of ID. It does not substitute your driver's license, your state-issued driver's license, or for that matter, your passport. And with your passport, that goes through the State Department, the United States State Department, in which you submit proof of citizenship or naturalization papers, state ID card, proof of residency with utility bill, and then you pay some monies. I had to pay like $225 total for my passport. Now, I mentioned those two things. When you're in delivery and transport, it doesn't hurt to have both your TWIC and your passport if you're able to apply for a passport or for a TWIC and be accepted for with having those forms of identification. Now, here in South Carolina, your converted ID card, when you turn in your ID card, your state issue ID or your driver's license, you will be issued a new one with a gold star in the upper right hand corner. In my case, I applied for that today, April 28, 2025. And what I found out too is that my driver's license, which should have expired in 2027, now has a new expiration date in 2033. So my driver's license is good for another 8 years. It just so happens that it's good for another 8 years. But when you apply for your real ID card here in South Carolina, you must provide proof of citizenship, be it a naturalization papers or birth certificate or your passport. I presented my passport in this case. You also must show your driver's license or state-issued ID card, 2 proofs of residence, be it your state ID and something like a utility bill or tax bill, or a utility bill and tax bill. It's a combination of those scenarios there. And then also here in South Carolina, if it's involving your driver's license, you must have a vision test. You must pass a vision test. Now, for me, what I did with the vision test, since y'all often see me in some of the geezer archives of my wearing glasses, what I did was I got a statement from my optometrist, which also is then entered into the system with the South Carolina Department of Motor Vehicles, that I meet the vision requirements. Based on my licensed optometrist observation and assessment, that I meet those vision requirements. So that's one way of getting around it. Or hey, if your eyes are good enough, you can just look into the apparatus there at the Department of Motor Vehicles and read off the lines and pass the test that way as well. So now, what are other reasons why you really need a real ID card? I mentioned about military and federal facilities. Now, here's an actual scenario that occurred last July, early August 2024. I had a brokered opportunity from Charlotte to Wilmington, North Carolina. The final destination was the shipyards. Now, my TWIC should have gained me access onto the shipyards, but as it turned out, I needed to go through another level of security clearance at the shipyards in Wilmington in order to gain entry onto the shipyards. And at that time, I had to show my driver's license, which they went through another round of security clearance, and then I was granted entry onto the shipyards. Now, at other places, every place is different. I know when I went to the former Fort Benning in Georgia, all I had to do was present my TWIC, and that allowed me entry onto the military base. But it is my understanding, if you want to gain entry onto a military base come May 7, you must have that real ID card. So another thing, I heard another driver say this, another content creator say this while he's out doing brokered load opportunities in his delivery and transport operations. He drives around with his TWIC and his passport. I mentioned both of those already. The way things are right now, you may need to walk around with a real ID card, passport, and your TWIC, having those 3 forms of ID in which you've shown some form of proof of citizenship and shown proof that you're not a security risk to this country, it may be enough to keep from being shipped off to El Salvador or some other place, based on the way things are going right now. And I don't say that lightly either. But that's all I have to share for this segment of the Gig Geezer. Hopefully you got something out of this. By the way, in South Carolina, it was $25 for that real ID card. That's if you pay cash, and then if you pay with card, that's tack on a convenience fee. So the cost could be anywhere between $25 and $30, at least here in South Carolina. But again, if you like the content that's been provided in this segment of the Gig Geezer or in any other segment of the Gig Geezer, hit that subscribe button, give my content a thumbs up, share my content among others, and I definitely welcome your comments in the section below. I'm Inwood Lane. As always, may your grind and may your hustle continue.